was a kid, you would make like mixtapes, or like a few friends would make mixtapes because there wasn't that many kids who were into that kind of stuff. And you know, next to bands like Pantera and Sepultura and stuff, Nirvana were just really accessible. But they, you know, they were still heavy. They had good songs, like a good vibe. They were my favourite band, absolutely.
I remember when Nirvana, when Kurt died and Nirvana like split up. I think that the thing that appealed to me about Nirvana was not just the melodies, it's the fact that they were like a heavy, you know what I mean? They were like a harder kind of band, because a lot of my friends that were into Nirvana went off down the Britpop route when they didn't exist anymore. But that kind of, but I went off down the metal route. You know, you either went kind of like down the Britpop thing or the metal thing. But I just always thought that Britpop was just too. It just seemed like chart music to us,
conventional.
So we ended up going more underground, and I think that Nirvana definitely had an influence in that, and that is something that I really appreciate, because it made it so you had to work to, you know, find bands and find music that you were into, and that's what led to you becoming so passionate about the bands that you were into, you know, and that's kind of still something that we really like kind of cling on to today. We always think that people should really care about the bands that they like, you know, and it shouldn't just be a transient thing. It shouldn't just be like some, you know, like a flavour of the month thing. Yeah, something that you should.
There's a lot of fads, you know. There's been a lot of fads even since the Cribs have been around. That's why you see all these bands kind of come and go, because even though it's still like, you know, tenuously a countercultural thing, there's still like so many fads even on that side of things. And so that's why you watch a band who was previously really big, like I don't know, a garage rock band or an electro clash band, or, you know, some kind of like hip dudes from New York or whatever, and it can be like the biggest, most exciting thing, and then like a couple of years later it's just like, you know, it's just so dated, and it's not their fault. It's just trends, really. That was one thing that's one reason why I think we're still around, is because we, you know, for all that people thought maybe we had an attitude, it was just like trying to keep out of that kind of stuff. And we didn't come from that sort of mentality anyway, so it wasn't contrived. We just didn't want to align too closely with those kind of things.
Did they have to choose? Did they can't wear brown shoes? Did they not ever have to read about this in the news? You gonna have a go? Well, I don't want to know. I just thought that I should try and say hello to those who never exist without the generic. You had to impress, I but you never exist if you wasn't generic. You had to impress, I but I'll never forget how all this began, and I will never regret a thing I have done, but you would never exist without us. So maybe I do not have the time, fair weather friends of mine. And it's a long time you're doing nothing with your life. I heard you felt alert, oh, I'm hoping that it hurt, cause we spent too much time in grammar to be grinding to the dirt by those who never exist without being generic. You have to impress, I'm but you never exist if you wasn't generic. You have to impress, I'm but I'll never forget how all this began, and I will never regret a thing I have done, but you would never exist without us. So maybe I do. You say nothing, so you'll always mean nothing to me. And if what you say means nothing, then what you say will always mean nothing to me. Woo! Did they can't have the time, fair weather friends of mine? A year's a long time, you're doing nothing with your life. I heard you felt alert, well, I'm hoping that it hurt, cause we spent too much time in grammar to be grinding to the dirt by those who never exist without being generic. You have to impress, I'm but you never exist if you wasn't generic. You have to impress, I'm but I'll never forget how all this began, and I never regret that one thing I've done, but you would never exist without us. So maybe I do.
Hey, this is Gary.
And I'm Ryan.
We're the Cribs, and you're listening to Two States with Danny Carroll.
Very nice.
You said cheesy, right?
I think an interesting element with regards to you guys and both the devoted fan base and indeed outlasting all these contemporaries is, and it comes back to Nirvana again, not to dwell on them too much, but it's the ideological basis that's in your music. You know, there's the influence of Riot Grrrl, there's the influence of things that Nirvana would have exposed you to, which has really shaped the kind of philosophy of the lyrics as well, which is very important to people.
Well, that's good. I'm glad that, you know, that's something that like comes through, or that people are at least, like, you know, I think becoming more and more aware of now, you know, with regards to our band, that, you know, maybe there is something other than just the music. You know, we definitely have always, you know, I think we've recently started to become known almost for our ideologies as much as anything else, which, you know, it sounds really like it's a bit embarrassing to, like, you know, talk about. We just won like this Q award for, like, you know, being like spirit of independence or whatever, and I'm like, it's kind of cool that people are coming around to the to that kind of idea now, that, you know, that we have done things in a different way to other people, because I think that now more than ever the whole like idea of being independent and doing stuff on a DIY level makes so much more sense to people because of the way that the music industry is. You know, no one should, like, you know, it's very rare that people can be dependent on a record label or anything anymore. So you know, you really had better be about something more than just the music. Otherwise, you know, it doesn't look, you know, the future doesn't look particularly bleak for people lasting more than, like, you know, a few months, because
it doesn't look particularly bleak.
I mean, it doesn't look particularly bright for people lasting more than,
you know, like, well, what you were just saying. It's indicative to me of the fact that, yeah, the bands that we liked in our youth did inform a lot of our politics and did inform a lot of our interests, and it's, yeah, probably what was responsible for instilling this ethos in the band that, you know, you should try and traverse this route that we have, like, with more trepidation and caution than just, like, you know, entrusting people to represent you. It's better to sort of try and represent yourself. But that's what's important to us. Like, you know, hopefully that people who come and see you play will, like, you can maybe turn them on to some other bands, or you can I don't want to get too delusions of grandeur, but, like, use your position for the good just on, like, a small level to, like, yeah, maybe shine a light on some bands that you like, or just a way of going about things that is slightly different. I'd like to think that, like, maybe, hopefully, possibly some people who've seen our band would be like, oh yeah, well, they managed to make a career out of it and, like, and you know, infiltrate the pop charts without having to compromise. So, like, it's not like a complete fallacy that you can do things on that level and, you know, have to sign everything away to, like, a big label or whatever.
You
on the note of championing new bands or exposing people to different bands, I'd like to ask you about September Girls and the fact that Paula and her various guises have supported you throughout the years. So what do you like about her music?
They've got so much spirit, you know. That's the reason why they appealed to us in the first place. The Chalets toured with the Cribs back on the New Fellas tour.
They weren't easy tours really for any of the bands involved, and they've been, you know, they were really, really good to have around. You know, they were very, yeah, as Guy was saying, very spirited. They kind of like very much matched us on like our kind of the way that we went about, you know, doing the tours, and like the way that we went about enjoying the tours and stuff. So like we just struck up a really close friendship with him, you know. And like whenever we come to Ireland at all, like to play, you know, we always would hang out with them, you know. Yeah, we'd always hang out with them. It would always be our first choice to play with us, you know, because, you know, we always still keep up to date with what they're doing musically, you know, that we've always, like, you know, still check their records out and stuff like that. And
they're really smart and feisty, and, you know, just all the things that we like and sort of look for in a band, you know. I think that Chalet's turning into Tallulah Does the Hula, that was like a pretty natural progression, you know, like they lost the other guys in the band and sort of went more pop, which I always think that maybe that was the side that Kiva and Paula represented anyway. And then now, like, I think there's, you know, because that band broke up for reasons outside their control, and now I think that like September Girls is like really an idealistic shift for them, like in the fact that, well, not idealistic shift, but an idealistic culmination in the fact that the other band broke up, so now they've got like this really very identifiable idea for the band, you know. And I haven't seen them play live yet, but we trust those guys.
It wouldn't feel like we'd visited Ireland if we didn't spend all our time hanging out with those guys as well, you know. It really wouldn't.
It's well documented that physically you guys inflict a lot of pain upon yourselves touring. I'm wondering, with regard to some of these songs, you don't sing them in half measures, and emotionally or mentally can it be quite draining to sing these songs night after night?
It can physically, it certainly can be, you know.
I've been that we can barely even talk.
Yeah, we've been very harsh on this tour because we did like 4 gigs in a row, and then you know, because
90-minute sets.
Yeah, playing like really long sets, and because well, I actually started the tour like I was really bad because I'd got really bad asthma, so I was like, and I was really struggling to breathe for the first couple of nights of the tour, which really sucked because I was like, oh, I really don't want to get to the point where I can't like do full shows, you know. But fortunately, that's kind of sorted itself out a bit. But as a result, I was probably singing harder than what I normally would do, even. And it's just like once you blow your voice out once, which we like inevitably will do for the rest of the tour, it's like digging in sand because you never get a chance to rest it. So you know, it's always. But at the same time, there's no way that you want to, you know, when you're singing these songs that require that degree of intensity in the vocals, you can't phone it in, you know. There's never a night where you think, I'll sing it like half volume, or I'll sing it. But I just can't do that, you know. So.
I'd rather go home. I mean, I've had problems with my vocals before, like to the point where I had to have an operation and stuff, and it was quite, you know, it was upsetting for me. But I'd rather go home and feel like, sort of done my voice in a little bit, but I mean that feels bad, but it's better than going home and being like, oh man, I really just didn't, you know, I didn't prioritize this one show, because, and I don't want to sound like we're being too kind of San Francisco about, you know, hippie kind of about the whole thing, but we just don't want to feel like we prioritize any one show over the other, no matter what it is, because otherwise being on tour for 18 months at a time would become really psychologically difficult, because you go through those like peaks and troughs of like, oh well, these shows, these aren't so exciting, or we don't know why we're in this place or whatever. If you feel like every night's going to be just as good as the previous one,
and you know, it can be as well, you know what I mean? Isn't it like, you know, that is something that people seem to forget as well. It's like, you can make every gig like one, you know, you can enjoy it. I still enjoy every single gig that we do, which is like, I don't imagine that is particularly common, really, because when you've been on tour for 10 years, it's really difficult to keep that level of enthusiasm up. But there's no, I don't know, it's just what I want to do.
We were from a small town originally, and so I think that there's definitely a part of us that just feels like, oh yeah, well you can't just not prioritise that place because it's just lesser well known, because there'll be kids like us who'll go on and be like, you know, those guys suck, like I've read about those guys or I've heard them on the radio, but in reality they suck. So we've always had, and that's why you get hurt or why you physically get worn out, but because it did become something that was a bit synonymous with the group for a while, and I think that it wasn't born out of, we didn't see it as anything specifically reckless or specifically nihilistic. It was just more out of, you just can't do it every night at that like, you know, and keep it up like that without something's going wrong or some like gear getting damaged or whatever, you know.
Leave me alone today, rather listen to a word you say. It's like a money in my wallet, I got bruises on my knees, but that's alright. The point was lost on a jaded you. Check out these words, they're deep. Cigarettes down at the end of my street, but they're
Hey, this is Gary,
And I'm Ryan.
and we're the Cribs, and you're listening to Two States with Danny Carroll.
Very nice.
You said cheesy, right?
You mentioned coming from a small town, and I'm wondering, has your relationship with Wakefield changed over the years?
I mean, my relationship with it has changed like a lot in the short, like, you know, in the recent like past, because I was living in London for a while, and I've never really enjoyed. I've never really enjoyed London as a city, you know, because I don't know why it is about it. For some reason, it's just never really held a great deal of appeal to me. So I started enjoying going back to Wakefield and liking, you know, being in a smaller town and stuff, and liking the routine of it. But then after I was there for like a year or something, I was getting the same feelings what I did when I was a kid, and I was just going crazy, you know. And I was like, as much as I do like it and appreciate what goes on there, and like, you know, there's still definitely people trying to make stuff happen there, which is you know, which is a good thing.
Motivated now. There's lots of bands and lots of, like, you know, little labels and fanzines. It's like I'm actually kind of psyched on Wakefield right now, but it's just it's easy for me to say because I'm just not there a great deal anymore. So I can come back and be like, oh yeah, I'm proud of what's going on, and I mean, so.
Yeah, when I realised that it seemed like I was going to be staying there for the duration, I definitely freaked out a little bit and went off on another trip.
Because we started a band to leave there in the first place. That's kind of why we started it. So it's definitely it would almost feel like a step back.
Sure. I want to ask you about the current records, and certainly I don't say it to everyone, but it is my favourite record of the year, without doubt. And
Thanks,
I'm wondering about the 4-song closing suite. Either recording or indeed listening back to that, was there an extra sense of achievement of actually pulling off something like that?
There was, in the way that it took a long time to, like, every song had to be, for a start, had to be recorded completely separately, and then every track had to be mixed separately, and then it had to be compiled. So even just the, you know, those like machinations of it took a long time, you know.
Yeah, but I think because of the amount of pre-planning that we did, like, it was a very different process. Like, because we had the song ideas and the snippets that we just wanted to weave together. So we did a lot of pre-production on that track because we knew we were going to produce it ourselves. So and we were going into the studio for just 3 days to do it, so we knew that we had to be pretty ready. So we had some like really vivid ideas of how we were going to sew them together, and that different approach to the process was like my favorite and most satisfying part of the record, because it's something we wanted to do for a while, and it just kept growing as well. It was like, even when we were down at Abbey Road recording it, it'd be like, oh, well, I forgot about this riff, why don't we throw this one in? You know, you were just like constantly finding things on your phone that you recorded, and you're like, oh yeah, just stick that bit in as well, you know. So it was like kind of growing all the time, and like it was really after making a bunch of records and doing the same formats all the time, you know, 12 tracks that, you know, just followed on from each other. It was just nice to like sort of change the format a little bit, and I was obsessed with like putting that one together for a long time. It was like, it went through like some demo forms, and it was my favourite part of the recording process.
That we've learned it as well. We can play it live. Like, yeah, we learn how to play it live. Yeah, we've been doing it in sound checks. We can do the whole thing, and it sounds, you know what I mean. It sounded really good,
Makes sense.
But we just haven't. We just don't know when to do it yet. You know, we've kept thinking, oh, we'll put it on the set list tonight, and then we're like, oh. It's almost like we kind of back out of it at the last minute for no reason.
Some people would enjoy it.
Yeah.
But then it goes on for like 15 minutes. I think some people, some people would get really bored. Or I mean, if it was up to me, we would definitely do it.
Yeah, those are some sing-along moments within that. You know, there's definitely room to involve a Cribs audience in those parts. And I even think, I mean, it's really clever the way you brought back the little motif from Jaded Youth as well. It's just, I mean, motif and suite aren't words I would have usually used with the Cribs, but it's there.
But that's the thing, and that's kind of like, honestly, when I've been doing a few demos here and there for the new, you know, for potential new stuff, and I really just see that being the future for us. It's just like a whole, just like one record that's just like that. Like, bits keep coming back, and I know it's pretentious, but it's just you get bored of the format. It's for me, it's just I'm bored of the format, and so the idea of just like it's not like an opera, but it kind of it's more like a classical thing, really, where you have it's a suite, like where you have like recurring motifs and just come back to the good bits every now and then, because then you would listen to the record differently, and as a reaction to the iTunes age, where it's like, you know, people only care about tracks, just make it as difficult to listen to a track as possible, you know.
I interviewed you, Gary, on the phone a couple of years back, and this was this is probably 2010, and you talked about even on demos you're wanting to use the studio as an instrument, and there was more keyboards and all that kind of thing, and I wasn't sure if that would actually happen. It kind of did in ways, you know, that people wouldn't have expected, really.
Yeah, and that was the thing. Like, you know, Johnny had left, and you know, the band was sort of like that was a drag, because the story of the band for that period when we were writing, which is an important time for us, the only public story of the band was just this negative, like, oh, Johnny's left, you know, and that puts you under a cloud. So I think really it just made us, while we were writing, we just wanted to maybe just do something a bit confounding, you know. It wasn't a case of just like turn up the rule book, because that would have been. I did become aware of how we were going to be perceived coming back as a three-piece, you know, because you knew people were going to critique it more for that reason.
You knew there was going to be some people who just, like, you know, some of the people that we won over, you know, I think on the fourth record, you know, some of them are, you know,
conservative
we knew that they were going to not want to like it immediately, you know. They were going to want to say it was regressive or something immediately, because that is their way, you know. But
well, they're just going to critique it on that level.
Yeah, we just tried to make it so it was, I don't know.
Maybe it's not what they were expecting. We were just aware that you know, if there was ever a time to sort of try and confound people, that it was a good time to do it. It's a good opportunity, and it just made us more determined to sort of just try something a bit different, and we can do what we want, you know. We can be as idiosyncratic as we want now.
show I present is called Two States, after the Pavement song, and I know that they're a very important band for you guys, so I can't help but ask about your friendship with Steve Malcolmus and indeed your love for his music.
Yeah, it's been a long... I always say that the Jicks are like... As far as bands go, the Jicks and Stephen are like basically the Cribs family, you know, because like, you know, we actually do literally have like family ties with the band now, and we you know, we've always, you know, we share a van together in America, and like whenever Steve comes over here, he uses our equipment and, you know, goes on tour with our crew and stuff.
He used to put like lyrics in, didn't he, about like why did that make
he had a lyric about the Cribs on
Mirror Traffic.
On Mirror Traffic, but he cut it out at the last minute because he thought that I didn't like it, but I was psyched on it. He had a lyric that said, "I'm a Cribs fan, yes I am, I'll beat your head in if I can." And the lyric came from, like, it was in the song Forever 28, and the lyric came from after we played Doncaster Dome, we had all these kind of like loutish fans who like booed the Slits who were opening for us. I told Steve that, and he wrote that lyric, and then he pulled it out because he thought that I might take offence at it, but I was psyched. I've still got the demo where he does that. It was pretty rad.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like hearing you talking about missing college because you're sat in the bath listening to Pavement records, right?
Right. Yeah, that's an obscure one. Yeah, I don't know what would happen was when I lived in a flat in Wakefield with my then girlfriend, and I was just lazy. I never wanted to go to. I was going to recording school, and I never really wanted to go, and which is weird because I've been fascinated with recording.
Yeah.
But I would get up on a morning with the intention of going on, like, yeah, put Bright in the Corners on and get in the bath, and then just that would be it. I'd just be in the bath for like an hour or something. So, where did you hear that one? Where was that?
I believe that was like like MTV2 when you choose your favorite videos.
Oh right, yeah,
you know,
okay,
years ago.
Yeah.
But I thought that was funny, you know, for somebody who would have sat and listened to the band to actually having such a good, strong friendship with the man later. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I mean, things change over the years, really. It's like one of the things where we've been in some pretty bizarre situations since we've been in a band, and it hasn't been like an overnight thing. It's been gradual, you know. So we've been, you know, I mean, working with Lee from Sonic Youth, that was like a really big thing to us, but you didn't feel necessarily
all the time as well. No, I've never even thought of that as being like a weird thing, but that was weird.
Musicians just hang out with musicians after a bit, that's it, you know, because you're such a bad friend because you try and be a good friend, but then you're gone forever. So sometimes like other people who do the same thing are the only people who understand that.
Fellow nomads.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Blind date with the chancer, we had oysters and dry lancers, and the check when it arrived, we went Dutch, a redder shade of neck on a whiter shade of trash, and this emery board is giving me a rash. I'm flat out, you're so beautiful to look at when you cry. Freeze, don't move, you've been chosen as an extra in the movie adaptation of the sequel to your life. A shady lane, everybody wants one. A shady lane, everybody needs one. Oh my god, 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 oh your god, oh his god, oh her god. It's everybody's god, it's everybody's god, it's everybody's god, it's everybody's god. The worlds collide, but all that we want is a shady lane. Glance, don't stare. Soon you're being told to recognize your heirs. No, not me. I'm an island of such great complexity. Stress surrounds in the muddy, peaceful sand.
So, is there anybody else on your wish list to work with? Maybe that's a dumb question, but I'm just thinking in terms of the records.
Well, yeah.
You know, and the records have always had a different producer that's really brought a different kind of identity or shape to the records. And
We want to finish the Albini stuff.
Okay.
I don't think there's anyone that we want to work with specifically, except that you've actually just asked at an interesting time, because we just Ryan's just been tweeting with Brian May just recently, which is nuts.
Yeah, and he's like been checking the band out and stuff, and like, you know, he seems like a nice guy, and he follows me on Twitter these days. You know, but I don't know. We've always been a big fan of Brian's. So
He's super melodic. He's super melodic. He'd be.
Just get him to throw a solo on something one time.
Do you ever hear him talk about how he writes his solos, how he has to sing them? He doesn't play them on the guitar first because they won't be melodic enough, so he sings them to make sure they're as melodic as possible. That's a fact. So maybe you can discuss that with him. That or astronomy. See how it goes.
Ross can talk about astronomy. Ross has become quite interested in that kind of stuff.
All right. Well, is there anything else you'd like to tell your Irish audience?
Just that, like, you know, we always intended to come back here more than what we do, and it was always. Well, I still don't really know the reasons why we don't get back here that much, but
It's not our fault one way or
we just
another.
don't feel like it's our fault. So,
Oh, we just don't feel like it.
yes, it's just sorry, man. You know, we do try, but we try our best.
Fair enough. Well, thank you very much for talking to me.
I'm alone and I'm cold, just another number on another row. I'm alone and I'm cold, just another number on another row. I never knew my name. I never knew my name. I'm alone and I'm cold, just another number on another row. I'm alone and I'm cold, just another number on another row. I disappear for hours over the smallest things, yeah. I disappear for hours. I never knew my name. I never knew my name.
Hey, this is Gary,
And I'm Ryan.
and we're the Cribs, and you're listening to Two States with Danny Carroll.
Very nice.
You said cheesy, right?